another episode of Phantom X Archive. This month, we are doing something a little bit different. We are reading fanfiction. Acacia Archive is one of my favorite fanfiction archives, even though it's no longer active. I am still able to access it thanks to Wayback Machine. So read all the fanfic you can while they're still there. What's so special about Acacia Archives is that it was focused on non-MSR stories. So there you will find angsty, heart-wrenching drama about our favorite characters, or you can find something lighthearted and funny, or just classic X-File cases. There's room for everything on Acacia Archives, except for romance. And I thought that this month we're going to read something lighthearted, something funny. So this first fanfic is called Peter Cottontail and the Big Bad Day by Laura Sorensen, rated PG. Peter Cottontail and the Big Bad Day, 9:05 a.m. Monday morning, FBI building, basement hallway, 6 days before Easter, 1999. The first thing Mulder noticed as he approached his office was a large sign, a white sandwich board sign, kind of like the ones that stood outside of restaurants. The sign was printed with large blue letters. It said, "This is also the office of Dana Scully. Inquire within." He sighed. It was going to be another one of those days. He scratched his tail, it itched horribly down there, and padded into the office. His partner was busily engaged and didn't even hear him come in. Mulder couldn't believe his eyes. The right side of the room had been, remodeled. Exactly half of his posters had been taken down and piled neatly in a stack on his desk. His desk, which had been pushed over to the left side of the room along with his slide projector. The right half of the room had been swept, and the files over there were neatly put away. A small desk had been set up near the wall, with pencils in a jar and a nifty little desk calendar. Scully's penguin coffee cup sat neatly on the clean desktop, full of fresh coffee. And Scully was perching on a swivel chair, putting the finishes touches on her side of the room. A large poster of Einstein presided over the wall, with the caption, "Scientists do it in a quantum." A picture of her family hung on a nail where he'd had his little Marvin the Martian toy. And a big scene of the Tuscany countryside adorned the other wall. "What are you doing to my office?" he fairly shrieked. Scully swiveled calmly to face him. Her mouth twitched a little. She set down a roll of double-stick Scotch tape with a click on her desk. "Supply finally approved my request for a desk, Mulder," she said. "So they had to move it in, so I had to clean it up. It's been years and years since I started down here, and you've never once called to order me a desk, so I just did it myself. This is my office, too." She paused to sip her coffee, smiling slightly. Stammering, Mulder scratched his tail again. Well, sure, it is your office too, but did you have to put up those weird pictures?" She gestured towards the landscape. "I thought it could act as our window, since we're in a basement." Mulder couldn't say anything to that. He sat down with a flump in his own chair, his ears flopped. Scully smiled sympathetically. "I'm sorry that A.D. Kirsch picked you for the job. I guess he's kind of got it in for you." "You could say that," he said sourly, "but at least you have to come too." "Yes, well, that's all right. I won't be wearing the purple bunny suit." He restrained himself from flipping her off. She'd probably just smack him. That was the worst Monday ever. He'd been dreading this assignment for days. All the other agents had been snickering at him ever since they found out that he would be the one. Previous Wednesday, 3:30 p.m., Director Kirsch's office. After Mulder is caught taking extended lunch breaks with a Game Boy. "Agent Mulder, I have another assignment for you." "Yes, sir," Mulder said, barely restraining his fury. He had just been subjected to a 15-minute lecture on how the FBI took their background checks seriously and how video games did not contribute to the group morale. He stood insolently staring at his new boss. Kirsch stared back with no expression. As you know, the mall in Springfield has been a target for a serial kidnapper who steals children and transports them to a black market in New York. Next Monday, the mall is having an Easter celebration for all the children who want to come. We have been charged to make sure that the suspect does not get away with any more children. So I am assigning you and Agent Scully to a team detail. You will not be in charge, and you will be expected to do everything in your power to help catch this criminal. If you do not follow orders this time, I will be forced to dismiss you from the FBI. Is this clear? Yes, sir, said Mulder. This didn't sound so bad. And, Agent, since you find cartoon characters so immensely amusing, Kirsch tapped the Game Boy which had been running Donkey Kong Country, you will report to Undercover for a bunny rabbit costume, which you will wear during the operation. You will hand out Easter candy to the children and keep an eye out for the suspect from the inside. Is that understood? But, sir, I hope you're not questioning my orders. I'm not, sir. Then you're dismissed. When Mulder left the office, he noticed that Kirsch's secretary was biting her lip and pointedly not speaking to him. Further, he noticed that the intercom light on her desk was green. Great. Everyone would know about this by the end of the day. Present moment, Mulder's office, still in the bunny suit. For the 2 days following his assignment, he'd been called everything from "What's up, Doc?" to "Little Bunny Foo-Foo." He'd been told to practice his hop, asked about his cottontail, and asked how to get to the bunny trail. Scully had tactfully refrained from mentioning the assignment, although he'd heard something about floppy ears as she walked out of the restroom on Friday. Yeah, like Scully had anything to say, her assignment was to sit in the parking garage in her comfy Ford reading a book, just in case the guy came through the garage, said the SAAC. Sure, fine, whatever. Mulder, it's time to go. You want to get this over with, don't you? He looked up, nodding. Scully seemed kind of concerned. Maybe he could get out of this. Scully, now that you mention it, I don't feel so good. She held up her hand. Don't even say it. It's only a couple of hours and we'll get through this. She preceded him through the exit. Across the wall, Einstein grinned at him. His ears flopped. He'll get through this. Ha. 3 hours later, Springfield Mall. Mulder is giving out candy next to Hot Topic and fending off bites from a 3-year-old. She was in Mulder's office with a tall, dark man. He pushed her up the filing cabinet and slanted his mouth over hers. She looked up into his dark eyes and happily let him kiss her. She could feel the filing cabinet handle poking her into her back, but she didn't care. She forgot to breathe and only remembered when he lifted his mouth from hers, staring at her smolderingly. "Oh, Alex," she said wonderingly, "why didn't we do this before?" "You've never let me," said Alex Krychek huskily. "Well, I'm letting you now," she said, and tilted her head up to his again. Just as their lips touched, Mulder burst into the office wearing a bunny suit. Shock painted his features. Shock and, of course, jealousy. "Scully, what's going on?" Scully jerked awake. She was draped half over the seatbelt fastener, which had probably bruised her back by now. The radio was squawking loudly. "Agent Scully, pick up, please. We've spotted the suspect and Mulder's gone after him. We need backup." She grabbed the mic. "Okay, I'm here. Where are they?" "They went into a B. Dalton bookstore. It's about you to the right." "On my way." She grabbed her weapon and made for the nearest entrance. Alex Krychek? Where did that one come from? Outside the B. Dalton, agents were gathered in loose clumps. The SAC was talking furiously into the phone. Something about, "Why don't we just let him shoot the friggin'," but he cut off when he saw Scully. "Agent Scully, the kidnapper has taken Mulder hostage. He was spotted trying to entice a child away, and Mulder chased him in here. But somehow the kidnapper got a hold of Mulder's gun and threatens to shoot him if we don't give him a vehicle to get away in." "I'll go after him," Scully said calmly. Her mind raced. The SAC smiled. The gap next door has a side door that can be used to get into the storeroom of the bookstore. I'll send another guy with you, and hopefully you can get him to lay down his gun while we keep him busy with promises." He introduced Agent Johansson to her, and they smiled professionally at each other. Then they proceeded to the side door. It opened onto a large storeroom filled with boxes and piles of books. They crept into the bookstore, guns at the ready, and then Scully went one way and Johansson went the other way. The object was quite simple: disarm the fellow before he had a chance to shoot Mulder. No other rules were necessary. As she crept down the aisle, she became aware of a cold, furious voice coming in from in front of her. She lay down on the floor and slowly eased a book out of the bottom shelf. Through the hole she could see a pair of fuzzy purple feet and 2 legs in khaki chinos. The voice came from the chinos, and it was saying, "I don't care what you have to do. I know it doesn't take this long to get a car out here. I hope you don't think I'm kidding around, because I'm fully prepared to shoot this bunny right through the head." The conversation continued along those lines until suddenly the cold voice said, "And I don't appreciate you sending in people after me either." The legs swiveled to the right, away from the purple feet, and the cold voice said, "Why don't you show yourself, sir?" "Look, don't shoot." It was Johansson's voice. Scully stood quietly. The cold voice continued, "Why don't you come over here next to the bunny, and we'll just sit ourselves down?" Scully considered. She put her hand on the shelf and shook it a little. They were cheap metal shelves, and the frame wobbled a little. She heard a pistol cock. "Well, if there's one of you, there's got to be more, huh? Guess I'll have to shoot ya." The cold voice sounded like it was right next to her head. Scully took a deep breath, prayed a little, and pushed with all her might. The shelf yielded like a bowl of cranberry jello, tipping over and smashing into the shelf in front of it. Books cascaded everywhere. She heard an "ow" from Mulder and the sound of a shot. Johansson came running around the side, saw her, and smiled before booking it over to the door. Mulder crawled out from under the books, relatively unharmed. He was very grumpy, however. He just gave her a look and sat down on the floor, sulking. No gratitude, as usual. The SAC came striding in. "Good thinking, Agent," he smiled. "Commendation for sure. Maybe we can get you a corner office yet." He didn't spare a look at poor Mulder. The rest of the agents lifted the shelf up from the kidnapper, who lay prone, knocked out cold by a large hardback book. Johansson picked it up and read the title. "Fire and Ice, the Tonya Harding story." He grinned. "It's a bestseller." 6 days later, 10 a.m., Mulder's apartment. "Happy Easter, Mulder. I got you a chocolate bunny." "Oh, thanks, Scully. You're a peach." "Well, I didn't really expect you to come over here, but you can share my bunny with me." "Oh, and A.D. Kirsch sent something from the SAC. It's a copy of the Tonya Harding story." "Thanks, Mulder. I'll keep it on my desk as a reminder." "Of what?" Sometimes you can almost hear Scully smile. "As a reminder that you owe me one, Peter Cottontail." The end. This next story is called Audited. It's written by Suzanne Barringer. Summary. Mulder gets audited by the IRS. Light and fluffy. Audited by Suzanne Barringer. In the waiting room of the Washington, D.C. Internal Revenue Service office, Fox Mulder tapped his fingers on the top of his shoeboxes as he waited to be called. Mulder was being audited by the IRS, and he was more than slightly worried. He knew everything was in order with his returns, but his concern was whether the IRS would see it that way. He had all his receipts for the itemized deductions, 5 shoeboxes full, in fact. He didn't think he had claimed anything improperly, but then why was he being targeted? They certainly knew that his job as a federal employee didn't earn him any more than he had claimed. It had to be his deductions. "Mr. Fox Mulder?" An IRS agent appeared at the door. Not a very pleasant-looking IRS agent, for that matter. The man was dressed impeccably, but his face was like concrete. Mulder stood to shake his hand. "I'm Mr. Milligan," said the agent. "Pleasure to meet you." "Wish I could say the same," Mulder cracked. The man didn't laugh or even smile. "Mr. Mulder, step into the conference room and let's get down to business. You brought everything you need?" Mulder nodded towards the shoeboxes balanced in his arms. Milligan led Mulder to a small room with a large table, no windows, and a definite pall hanging over it. Mulder wondered just how many innocent taxpayers had met their death in this room. He took a seat, looked at the impassive Milligan, then decided to take the offensive. "You do realize I'm a federal agent, Mr. Milligan. And your point is?" "I work for the federal government, just like you. We're supposed to stick together, aren't we? Catch the people who are breaking the law?" Mulder figured it was worth a try. "Sure, but from your last tax return, it looks like you might be one of those people." "No, sir, everything is on the up and up. I got all my receipts right here." Mulder motioned to the shoeboxes they had placed on the table. "Look, Mr. Milligan, it's important for us government types to help each other out. You never know when you might need the services of an FBI agent, right? In case my wife gets abducted by a little green man? I think I'll take my chances." Mulder couldn't believe his reputation had spread so far as to encompass every government agency in the country. Not only that, if his reputation had preceded him, he was probably in big trouble. "No more bribery, Mr. Mulder. Let's get started." Mulder swallowed hard and felt dizzy. "Let's begin with the deduction you've taken for loss of property. It's extraordinarily high." "I ruin an extraordinary amount of clothing," replied Mulder. "You cannot deduct clothing expenses for work unless you wear a uniform or something not suitable for daily wear." Milligan's robotic rattling off of tax law didn't intimidate Mulder in the least. He had done his reading. "Right, but I didn't deduct them as clothing. I deducted them as loss of personal property due to casualty." "Casualty? That's only for sudden, unexpected, or unusual events. Possessions destroyed by events that are unanticipated and atypical." "Exactly. That's what happens to my clothes. Lots of anticipated and unusual things." "Really? Would you care to give me an example?" "Of course." Mulder pulled out the shoebox on the bottom and opened it. No doubt Milligan was surprised at his organization. Groups of receipts were paper-clipped together and labeled. Mulder wanted to give the impression he knew exactly what he was doing. "Suits," said Mulder, handing over the pile of receipts. 22 of them, all destroyed by unusual events." 22? "Yup." "In 1 year?" "Yes. For instance, one got ruined while I tried to chase down a runaway RV. I got dragged behind it and, well, that can really ruin a suit." "A runaway RV?" "Well, it wasn't exactly a runaway. They had been a driver, but he was killed." "In the RV?" "Yeah, by the pizza delivery boy. He was a vampire." "The pizza delivery boy was a vampire?" Milligan looked unimpressed. "Yep." "Did you catch him?" Mulder wasn't sure if Milligan was being sarcastic or not. "No, actually, the whole bunch of them got away." "I see. The whole bunch of them." "Then another suit got ruined when I tried to save a boy who was being sucked under by quicksand." "Quicksand is definitely not a day-to-day occurrence." "Quicksand?" "It was really the boy's therapist who thought it was the father who was trying to kill him, but the trees and the mud had something to do with it. We never did figure that out exactly." "I see. So I go through a lot of suits just trying to rescue people, all for a good cause." Mulder smiled at Milligan. "And overcoats, too," he added, pulling out another stack of receipts from his shoebox. "Uh-huh. Okay, just for the sake of argument, let's say that your claim for suits and overcoats as casualty losses is legitimate. That certainly doesn't add up to this large figure you've claimed here." "Shoes," Mulder pronounced with authority. "Shoes. Yes." Mulder presented yet another stack of receipts neatly gathered with a paperclip. "I go through a lot of shoes." "Quicksand and runaway RVs?" asked Milligan. Now he was definitely being sarcastic. "No, not always. I run through the woods a lot." "Looking for aliens?" "Occasionally, but more often various monsters, mutants, and creatures from the deep recesses of time and nature." "Uh-huh," said Milligan, looking very puzzled. "And you ruin a lot of shoes that way." "Exactly." Milligan was silent for a moment. "Okay, Mr. Mulder, let's just put that aside for a moment and move on to some of these other deductions, like travel. Now, you work for the federal government, and I know for a fact they pay any business-related travel expenses. Actually, They don't always. Why not? Sometimes I don't get my paperwork in on time, so I have to pay out of my own pocket. And you think you deserve a tax break for not getting your paperwork in on time. Milligan had a look of triumph on his face. Mulder wouldn't stand for that. Look, the tax book says you can deduct for business-related travel that isn't reimbursed. It doesn't say, but only if you get your paperwork in on time. Milligan had no answer for that one. And sometimes I have to take a trip that isn't exactly related to work, Mulder added. But you can't claim it as a business-related deduction then. It looked like Milligan was smiling, like he was pleased he'd finally caught Mulder in something wrong. Right, but it turns out it is related to work. I just didn't know it when I went. And I didn't get pre-approval, so it's not always reimbursed in full. Can you give me an example? Okay, for instance, these. Mulder motioned to a pile of receipts bigger than any the IRS agent had ever seen, are various travel expenses related to the search of my sister. But that would be personal travel, not business. Normally, yes, but my sister is an X-file. An X-file? Yes, that's where I work, in the X-Files division. I suspect you've already heard about that. Milligan nodded in the affirmative. There's a case file on my sister because she was abducted when I was a child. By aliens, I assume. By the government. For some sort of experimentation with hybridizing aliens and human life forms. Milligan was silent. Mulder was used to that after telling people about his sister. So you see, Mr. Milligan, that even though she is my sister, it's still business, because she is an open case in my work as well. Milligan still said nothing, just flipped through the various stacks of receipts that Mulder had planted in front of him. One pile seemed to interest him. Antarctica? Yeah, I had to go there to rescue my partner. Was your partner abducted by the government too? Mulder was getting a little tired of Milligan's sarcasm. Not exactly. Well, not our government. She was abducted by a secret government, one that had been secretly negotiating a planned Armageddon, one that may or may not be led by a man who smokes cigarettes. Really? Yeah, and she had been stung by a bee, which injected her with a virus, which might have caused her body to be taken over by an extraterrestrial life form if I didn't get there in time. Really? Yes, so of course I had to go rescue her. I would never let them have her. And the FBI would not reimburse you for this trip, even though it was to rescue your partner? Milligan seemed confused. Oh, they reimbursed me for some of it, but I didn't follow proper channels, and it wasn't exactly an official case, so I had to pay for other stuff on my own. But it was business. No way you can call that trip a vacation. I see. Milligan continued looking through the receipts, then handed them back to Mulder. Okay, let's just move on. What about these medical deductions? You must have health insurance through the Bureau. Yes, of course, but I have an incredibly high deductible. And why is that? It's the only way they would renew my policy. I think I was single-handedly driving them into bankruptcy. Mulder smiled. Milligan didn't. Like when I was in the psychiatric hospital, they wouldn't pay for all of that. You were in the psychiatric hospital. Milligan's tone was more of a statement than a question. He didn't seem surprised. And why was that? Well, I know this sounds crazy, but I saw a gigantic bug attacking my boss. And they let you out? Milligan's eyebrows rose with a question. Only because my partner testified I was sane. She did? Yes, she was the only one who believed me, because she saw the bug too. No one else did. Really? Thank God for her. She keeps me out of trouble. Actually, she could back up all I'm saying here about needing new suits and coats and shoes and the travel expenses. I don't know if I'm allowed to have a witness, but she could verify any of this that you don't believe. Right. I'll be sure to get in touch with her. Look, Mr. Mulder, to be honest, I think that most of your deductions here are not even remotely legitimate, but at this time I am not willing to take it any further. You're not? If I were to take your case to the next level for action, I would have to provide a statement of the reasoning and explanation you have given me today. If I did that, I have no doubt I would become the laughingstock of the IRS. It's not so bad, Mulder commented. What? Being a laughingstock. You get used to it. Just the same. I prefer not to experience it. Suit yourself, said Mulder, gathering up the receipts and putting them back into his shoeboxes. So that's it? I can go? Please, go. Mulder picked up his shoeboxes, balancing them precariously under his chin. Milligan jumped up to open the door for him, just to get him out of there a little faster. As Mulder stepped into the hallway, Milligan quickly slammed the door behind him. Mulder! Surprised to hear Scully's voice, Mulder turned to see her walking down the hallway toward him. Scully, what are you doing here? I just thought I'd come wait for you to see how it went, she said, assisting him with a few of his boxes. So, how did it go? I see you're not in handcuffs or anything, so I guess you didn't screw up too bad. I'm excused, Scully. Your plan worked. My plan? What plan? I just told you to be yourself and tell the truth. Exactly. You couldn't get rid of me fast enough. You thought I was a lunatic. Scully laughed. Like I said, Mulder, just be yourself. Mulder smiled at her. Sometimes Scully spoke the truth more profoundly than anyone could imagine. So, can I take you to dinner as thanks for your sage advice? Mulder asked. Do we have to talk about a case so you can deduct it as a business expense? She teased. Hey, I'm up for a walk on the wild side. Let's make this one personal. Deal. They walked out of the IRS building and into the sunshine. The end. I hope you enjoyed this shorter episode of Phantom X Archive. As some of you may know, I am now in grad school. I'm getting my master's degree in social work, and this has been a rather stressful couple of months. So I decided to do something a little lighter this month. But next month, we are going to keep talking about fan fiction in a slightly more academic way. Thank you for joining me, and I wish you a very happy, healthy, and peaceful end of the month.